What is up, my little Deinos? Vepsis, your coach of the Helsinki Hydreigons, and we are here for the CGT Week 5 battle when we go up against Gravy and his team being the Vancouver Titangs. He's someone that we did go up against before in this generation, all the way in BBR, and back when I took over a team. We did fight him back then. Unfortunately, back then I wasn't able to beat this guy. We lost him 1-0 fashion in a matchup which kinda was in his favor for sure, but regardless, I haven't been able to beat him last time that we played, so I'm not underestimating at all. And he's someone that in this generation I believe has one of the best track records when it comes to the championships that he has been able to win, and maybe not recently been most successful. As you can tell from his record, he's 1-3 and -8 differential. But that doesn't mean that I'm gonna be underestimating at all. Like I said, he beat me before in the past. That season in the BBR, he actually managed to win the championship as well, which tells you a lot. And also in the UBL that we weren't able to finish the past season, he actually took over my team and he didn't make any changes on it, and he went and won the championship. So this is gonna be a match of like back-to-back champion of the UBL going up against the reigning champion of the UBL. So it's pretty hype in that scenario. But now, before jumping into the team preview, that like what team I'm bringing, and I go very briefly, the timestamp should be popping right about now on your screen, so if you want to skip this part, go ahead to do so. But otherwise, if you're here to be a little interested more so what I'm bringing before going to the battle, sit tight as we're gonna be breaking this down. We're gonna be starting it all with my Talonflame, which is gonna make its debut this season. And I already knew going to this season, once I saw the schedule, that versus Jack, aka Gravy, I would be bringing my Talonflame. But before, he actually didn't, during the draft, have Rhyperior on his roster. He instead had Galar as his ground type. And if that would have been the case, that he didn't make those changes, the Talonflame had a fantastic offensive matchup. But because he just made that one change, I have to rely on Talonflame more being a utility mon instead. It's here to deal with the Volcarona that he has. He has quite a few, like not to say underrated, they are mons that you cannot underestimate. What I'm trying to say, like Mew, I'm heavily worried about Mew, because you never know what that thing is gonna be doing. So having some sort of priority that maybe back in my mind come in handy for me if I'm able to keep this thing at full health might be very useful for that. But most importantly, it's for the Volcarona. We have a somewhat very special defensive as well, and we also have defog on this thing, a roost for the utility. He has quite a few hazard setters, like spikes, T-spikes, stealth rocks and all that kind of stuff, and potential Aurora Bell from the Vanillux. So I definitely wanted to have a defog on this thing. And then we have Gale Wings and Heavy Duty Boots to help out for this matchup. And then we are bringing our physically defensive Water Absorber Seismitoad, because he does have the Water Urshifu this time around. So we are going back to back with facing both of the Urshifus, and this is one that is gonna be clicking the Rapid Strike. I forget that, Searching Strikes I think is the move called. It hits 3 times as a water move, and every single one of those smaller hits are always a crit, which combines somewhere closer to the range of what Wicked Blow is. I think it's a little bit weaker than Wicked Blow, but not by too much, and it's definitely strong mon in itself. And fighting types tend to be a little threatening versus me, and that's something that going into next week I'm gonna be breaking down a small transaction that I made to help dealing with the fighting types, but that won't be taking effect this week, and Seismitoad has to play a key role to beat the water immunity. Besides that, we are here to just click Scald whenever we have opportunity to do that, because he doesn't actually enjoy swapping into Scald. Earthquake is there to be able to hit the Mew a little bit harder if it's a setup set, because I have to play around with Mew that I'm assuming it's gonna be Dragon Dance versus me. So every single member, ideally, especially with Stealth Rocks up, should be putting it in a range of my Zeraora, and hopefully Zeraora's Knockoff will be taking care of it. And then we have Knockoff on this Seismitoad. Off the chance I can Knockoff like a berry from the Credent before it's been able to eat that, Ferrothorn's leftovers or Okka berry for example, or potentially Urshifu's choice item. If I have any reason to believe that it's potentially choice scarf, it would be nice to be able to get rid of that. And Noiver's heavy duty boots, or like any other member having heavy duty boots, would be nice to be able to knock off if I do manage to get my stealth rocks up and I'm not forced to defog with my Talonflame. Then we're gonna be bringing a physically defensive Togekiss yet again, but thankfully this time around it won't be the very potato Togekiss set that you have seen me like running 3 weeks in a row by now, which is part of the reason you're gonna notice that I make a transaction, which is gonna come in play next week to kinda help take away this kind of pressure from Togekiss, but I have to do it this week because it's my premier fighting resist for the Urshifu, but we are also packing Flamethrower and Grass Knot, which are hitting the Ferrothorn and Rhyperior respectively very hard because they are quite effective on both of them. Grass Knot is like base 120 versus Rhyperior, and even through a solid rock it's gonna be doing massive damage to it, so it would be nice to potentially catch it off guard, especially early game, because that means that it's immediately gonna be in a range of my Zeraora or my other members of the team. And Dazzling Gleam and into Grass Knot should be able to 2-hit KO Rhyperior, barring it's a Assault Vest set, or it's going to be like Grindo Berry for my Zeraora. But either way, it would be nice to pop it off if necessary. And Flamethrower, same thing for Ferrothorn. If it's still having the Occa Berry intact, it's nice to be able to get rid of that. If it's leftovers for the passive recovery to avoid a 2-hit KO for my Kyurem, I can 2-shot that thing easily with Flamethrower. So Togekiss, besides being a very important defensive member, it's also a very good offensive threat versus his most likely defensive core with the Rhyperior and the Ferrothorn in itself. And we also packed Super Luck. We could have had the Serene Grace for the chance of Flamethrower getting a burn, like would be 20% instead. But Super Luck is there just in case if I can pick off a crit hit with a Grass Knot, for example, because a crit Grass Knot will definitely kill the Rhyperior, barring Assault Vest or Rindo Berry, I believe. So that would be pretty nice. And then we have our 4-attack Zeraora, which could have had multiple different sets for this matchup, but I opted to go with 4 attacks. Adamant Nature with a Shuka Berry, just in case if the Mew is a Dragon Dance set, because I do expect it then to have Earthquake. So this is my way to revenge kill it after something dies in front of the Mew in itself while it's been trying to set up on it, and I get the little chip on it. Then we have Plasma Fist for the stab, it's very strong versus him, combined with the coverage. We have Fire Punch for the Ferrothorn, we have Grass Knot for the Rhyperior, barring it being again the Rindo Berry or a Salt Vest. They should still be able to 2-hit KO the regardless that we are Adamant Nature. And then Knockoff again is able to finish off the Mew. I don't expect it to be Colba Berry, so as long as its item is still intact, Knockoff is a lot stronger move versus it compared to Plasma Fist as a revenge killing it. So that's the Zeraora. And then we have our modest Choice Specs Kyurem, even though it has a Rock Slide on it, which we're gonna be touching on. But Ice Beam and Draco Meteor are very spammable versus my opponent. He doesn't have greatest switching to its dual stab. I could have Freeze Try to hit the Urshifu harder, but I don't really expect him to use it as a switching. And even then, Ice Beam is gonna be doing crap load to it because we are modest Choice Specs. And then we have Shadow Ball. Off the chance the Mew is like very specially defensive and I need to go for Shadow Balls instead, or if I lose my Choice Specs, it's gonna be doing then enough damage to keep it low amount in a range that hopefully it's not too big of a issue. Then we have Rock Slide because we have quite a bit of bulk on this guy, so with Volcarona potentially getting out of hand, I can still live a +1 hit after Stealth Rocks, barring a Fire Blast, I believe. So then I can finish it off with Rock Slide in itself, even though we are modest nature, as long as it's not like very bulky Volcarona spread in itself or Chardy Berry. But if Volcarona comes, I feel like it always should be heavy duty boots regardless. So that's the Kyurem. And then the final member of our team is gonna be our Assault Vest Jirachi, which is gonna be running Psychic, Shadow Ball, Ancient Power, and Fire Punch. Ancient Power is there to hit the Volcarona, and we are max speed with this thing, so we at worst speed tie with Mew and Volcarona, but there's a decent chance that neither of those will be max speed and there will be speed creeping Kyurem instead. And if that's the case, it would be nice to be able to get up a Ancient Power, and you never know, it's a 20% chance with the Serene Grace, so maybe I get chance to get the Omni Boost, which would be pretty broken with the Jirachi combined with its coverage. Shadow Ball again for the Mew to be able to hit it hard. Psychic Orcos the Urshifu, which was one of the main reasons why I wanted to bring Jirachi as well. This could have been Type Nola, for example, as well, to be a special wall, but that would have made my team a little bit more weaker to Urshifu compared to this thing being here as the special wall instead. And then we have the Fire Punch to be able to 2-hit KO the Ferrothorn, because I'm running Hasty Nature and a little bit of attack investment, so like it's fully specially defensive Ferrothorn with leftovers will get 2-shotted by Fire Punch. So that's basically the team. So probably a little bit more offensive in some sense. There are some bulky pivots like Seismitoad and Togekiss and the Assault Vest on Mew, not Mew, Chiratsi. But otherwise I'm going a little bit more offensive because I am quite out trying to respect his setup threats like Mew especially quite a bit, and I don't want to make too passive of a team where Choice Banded Urshifu Rapid Strike will be blowing me back. So that's basically the game plan going into this. We hopefully get the Mew set right. If the Mew is gonna be something completely different that I'm not prepared for, we can lose to that thing. Or if he brings something like Credent that I have some ways to deal with it, but if he brings very disgusting Credent without fighting coverage, that can be very annoying to me. Urshifu, if I don't manage my counters to it, and if it's a Choice Scarf, I can lose to that thing late game. So there are definitely some threats from his side that I can lose to, but now, without further ado rambling here, let's just cut into the scene that we are gonna be jumping into the battle. Okay, here we are with the battle with Jack vs Gray. You notice that I have a different clothing already because this is one day after I recorded the team builder. We had to postpone the game at first attempt because we couldn't get the connection working, and then the day after when we tried again, like today for example, we couldn't get it working again. We looked everything. At first we thought it was from Jack's side. He checked afterwards last night, everything seemed to be fine. He was able to connect with Dr. Slacking as he was testing. Everything looked fine for my connection. Before having to rely on Soda, we checked my setting as well. Everything was working as they were supposed to, but still something is up that we weren't able to do, and we used multiple servers for the launch scene as well. So unfortunately, today we have to play on Showdown, but we had to do this because we are already a couple of days past the deadline for the battle in itself to happen. You're gonna see this battle still on the Saturday as you're watching it on the right time. We are just a little behind with the original schedule, what it's supposed to be, but I'm gonna be right now turning on the timer, and then we are gonna be designing the lead. You see already what he's gonna be bringing from these 6. I definitely expected the Rhyperior, the Urshifu, which is the water form, not the dark form as it's first be appealing to show. I thought the Mew and Ferrothorn as well. Those 4 I definitely thought would be coming. Then the last 2 were little surprises or like a little bit more up in the air. And Jack loving Credent, I guess it wasn't too big of a surprise he brought that. Then he brought the Vanilluxe as well, which is an interesting choice. It's definitely potential ice resist for my Kurem, what I can notice, or potentially also allow Aurora Veil for the Mew to be able to set up. From here, who do I like as a lead? I may want to lead with my Togekiss because it deals well with the Urshifu. Good luck, have fun. Same here. And now we're gonna be turning on the timer. So now the timer, what we are using here, should be similar to the Wi-Fi scene, so I have to be keeping that in mind. But I'm probably gonna be leading with Togekiss, cause it deals with the Rhyperior and Ferrothorn well with the coverage. It deals with the Urshifu lead. The only one that I'm worried about is a potential Credent lead in itself, but at that point I probably would swap into my Seismitoad to try to knock it off its berry. Versus Vanilluxe that I would not like to stay in, I would swap into my Chiratsi that can go from there. So I think I'll stick with my original plan. With Togekiss, and thankfully I do, because the Ferrothorn looks to be his lead of choice. I'm gonna be flamethrowing this turn 1 because I want to pop a Okaberry, or if it's not Okaberry, I will do significant amount of damage, but let me just make sure to see how much this will do. If it's Pedef, we would be doing like almost 60% to a standard Ferrothorn, so I'll just go for the Flamethrower as he does swap into the Credent. We do 28% to the Credent in itself. Let's see, can we tell anything from that damage in itself? That looks to not to be as defensive, so that's an interesting card. That might be just very offensive Credent, which I'm a little bit worried of, like what kind of set you will be running. I could go into my Chiratsi to scout this one out. And I think I will do that. Let's go into Chiratsi. I'm a little worried that what this is gonna be doing. He does go for the Gyro Ball, which did a decent chunk. Are you like Choice Bandit with this by any chance? Like, let's say Brave, Max Attack. to my Chirachi. That is definitely choice well, not necessarily choice banded. Yeah, that may not be choice banded, but it's definitely offensive of some sort. I think I wanna fire punch this thing and cover the Ferrothorn swap. He does stay in. And that did a lot with Earthquake. That's not the greatest for me. And at this point, this would be good to keep still for the Vanilluxe, at least as a sack. So I may have to go into my Kurem on this and try to nuke this after that with Draco Meteor, as he does go for the Chobo. This is not a great start for me. But at this point, Ice Beam should be doing a lot, as well as Draco Meteors, to be fair, very free here. Draco Meteor should be able to kill this thing, right? Because you were like max HP. Could that be max HP Assault Vest with the damage that he did before? That could still be us. The Fire Punch did how much? 12%. Kurem with Draco Meteor should be able to pick you off, so I think I will be clicking just that. And hopefully claim a kill here. But I knew this Greedent would be a problem. Like, this guy definitely knows how to use this Pokemon to its full potential. That most will think it's very minor. He does swap out into the Ferrothorn and do a huge chunk to him. On this one I have to go into my Katniss, being the Talonflame. Because I could see him going for a Stealth Rocks or potentially even a Steel move. But that did a lot to the Ferrothorn. He's a substitute set with this. Substitute Ferrothorn. He's bringing some, I guess, a lot of hit this week. How much the Draco Meteor did to that thing? It did a lot to him. Okay, that did a lot to the Ferrothorn in itself. I may have to just stay in and go for the Brave Bird. Let's see what he has on this. Stealth Rocks. Okay. He's Substitute and Stealth Rocks on this thing. But I will defog these away. I don't think he can do too much to me. And I can recover this health back, but he's Substitute and Stealth Rocks. Because this is definitely not a great start for me. I'm kinda, I guess, thrown off all with the other shenanigans that has happened today. With our connection and stuff. Now, let's see if this Greedent learns Rock moves. It doesn't get Rock moves, but I might be popping his berry here if I stay in. So I may have to go into my Seismitoad to knock it off. Yeah, I don't think I wanna pop his berry. I have to hot swap into Seismitoad and Corkness this thing off. Okay, we take that just fine, and now I want to knock off your berry. If you have it. You could also be a Saltfest for all I know. If you go into the Ferrothorn, I get rid of your lefties as well. He was the Citrus Berry, okay. He does crit me there, which is unfortunate. Seismitoad into this Greedent. I should be able to 2-hit KO you with Earthquake. So I may have to take that trade-off here. So I'll go for the Earthquake. I don't even 2-hit KO him. What kind of spread is he running? Or was that a roll for me? That might have been a low roll. 21%. Is my Skull gonna be doing more to him then? I may have to go for this Scald. Let's go for this Scald. Hopefully it does more. We do manage to crit him. Okay, so crit for crit, but that Greedent did a lot work towards me, so that's really unfortunate. The Vanilluxe, if it's Scarf, it's a massive threat to me. I have to really hope that won't be the case, that he's Scarf with it. Talonflame, I might have to try to get it itself at full health at some point with roosting up, as he does go into the Vanillux. Yeah, this is a scenario that I probably have to choose my sack, which may end up being the Jirachi, which is really unfortunate. Yeah, it's really unfortunate. How much this is Vanillux. Say Choice Scarf. How much my Kyurem and other stuff would be taking from this? Kyurem would die to Blizzard. Zeraora would be very chipped down from this, which is pretty bad. Talonflame should be able to take one Just Wine and Brave Bird it if necessary, but I think I have to check my Jirachi here. We do live it, but then we die to the hell, so that did 17% to my Jirachi. So that's definitely not spec, so he could be Scarf with it. Which is honestly pretty bad, because this means that I probably have to go into my Zeraora and knock this thing off. But it could also mean that I come down to the range of dying to a Blizzard afterwards, especially if he swaps out into Ferrothorn. Yeah, this is gonna be pretty bad because of the... I haven't shown my fire move on my Talonflame, so I could go into that thing and U-turn out. Which I think I have to do that kind of play. I don't think he would stay in. So I think I will swap and go for the U-turn. Hopefully I get this call right. I don't think you stay in when you have a Rhyperior in the back, because I haven't shown myself to have Flare Bits. But this could be a potential play that I lose my Talonflame in a progress or be very significantly weakened. Okay, he does go into the Ferrothorn. Okay. But this means I can go into my Kyurem and click Ice Beam very freely. So we're gonna be doing just that. And we're gonna be clicking Ice Beam, I believe. But yeah, now I need to keep the Zeraora unfortunately has a lot of weight on its shoulders, because it does have the Sugar Berry to also pick up the Mew if it's a setup set. And the Urshifu is still a little bit of a problem to me. So I have to decide that who do I sack here next. If he goes into the Vanillux. There's always a chance that he's not Scout still, like even though he didn't reveal Specs damage. There's always that little chance. If he's not Scarf, I'm still in okay shape, but if he's Scarf, I'm very, very tough spot. Okay, he does go into this. What kind of speed am I running? 125. So I will be able to tell if he's Jolly or not. Who do I have to sack here? It might have to be Seismitoad. It may end up being the Seismitoad that I have to sack. It's either that or Kyurem in itself. Kyurem is still pretty nice to nuke the Rhyperior hard, but at the same time I do have quite a few other things to deal with it. I guess... yeah, it comes down to how do I want to deal with the Rhyperior, because... I may have it to preserve this and sack the Seismitoad. I think that's what needs to happen. As he does go for the Blizzard. He only has one Blizzard left after this. Which is important to note. I could go into my Zeraora now and knock off, because the Ferrothorn in the back is not in the back anymore. But then I'm tough position with the Mew. Which one do I end up doing? I have to decide this fast. Vanillux is where I really wish I had a fire move on the Talonflame. I think I have to address the threat in front of me, and I have to knock this one off from its Choice Scarf. And then I have to hope that I can manage the Mew, but if the Mew is set up set, I may lose to it. But the Choice Scarf Vanillux combined with the Greedent is very good bring from his side early game on. But yeah, the first time around I used the Talonflame for this. And now I'm kind of preserving in the back. Off the chance I can get up a roost with it, it's still nice. Or it's the other way of revenge killing this Vanillux if it's low amount of health. He does swap and he swaps into the Urshifu. What do we get rid of? Choice Band. We got rid of its Choice Band, okay. Urshifu Rapid. Realistically, he should not be staying in, but how much my Crashnut would be doing? 58%. I'm in a tough spot if the Rhyperior comes in. Part of me kind of wants to go into Togeki's Heart on this. Because it covers him staying in, or if he goes into Rhyperior, I get to Crashnut it. I think he swaps into the Rhyperior, so I wanna Crashnut it. He stays in. Which I'm surprised by that he did. But I guess I will Dazzling Gleam here. And pick up the Urshifu. If he goes into Rhyperior, I will obviously just Crashnut it. It's interesting he has been keeping in the back. It might be Rock Polish. But my Zeraora also has still the Shuka on it. But yeah, now my Zeraora and Talonflame together have to deal with the Vanillux and Mew. Which I still don't know what sets they are. This is definitely a scary game. This has been a very scary game. Like, I knew, even though his record shows to be 1-3, he's, in my opinion, one of the most accomplished players in Gen 8. Everyone goes a rough patch, and that may have been the case for him recently. At least in this league. I'm gonna be honest, I don't know his track record in other leagues recently, but regardless, he does bring the Rhyperior in, and I have to just Crashnut this for damage. And we do get a huge damage off on it. He is the Rock Polish set. Okay, this is... Does my Zeraora live this Rhyperior's hit, or do I outpace it? That's the important part. Maybe I should have thought about that a little bit before I clicked this. If his max attack Adamant... Okay, this is getting scary. Maybe I should have thought this a little bit before. Okay, this is a little troublesome now. Yeah, maybe I should have clicked the Dazzling Gleam instead. Maybe I should have done that. We have the Sugar Berry, it won't matter. We lose to the Rhyperior here. Unless he misses. But that won't be the case. We do lose this game 3-0. Good, really good game to Jack. Should have declaimed first. What was the... But anyway, that's good game to my opponent. Okay, I'm back kind of reflecting on what happened in the battle in itself. Before I jump into any further, I want to make sure to check out obviously Jack/Grace, his side. He's probably my favorite when it comes to who to listen to on their draft league commentary on Wi-Fi scene, because to me he had, like, I wish I had his voice to be honest and his accent, but instead I have what I have. But regardless, I wanted to make sure to mention that obviously make sure to check out my opponent. He's a very nice guy, and what I've been able to talk with him in the draft league community and got to know him a little bit. So now we're just gonna be going through first some of my misplays very early on in the game when it came to Jirachi and play around the Credence. Like, I misplayed the Credence so badly early on that I made it a lot harder for myself. And after that I have 3 potential late game scenarios for the fact that if the Rhyperior would have died like most of the time it should have died, how the late game could have been played out by my opponent and by myself, and how it's gonna actually suck now looking back on it, because all those 3 scenarios I would have won the game, either like 1-0, maybe a 2-0 even, but we get to that when we get to that. First I'll just talk about what was within my control that I should have done better early game. Like, turn 2 already where it starts to get misplaying, and I don't know, maybe this is part of the fact that we are playing on Shota when I was prepared to play on the Wi-Fi scene, but regardless of the fact, instead of swapping to my Jirachi, taking that Shadow Ball into Earthquake while I'm hasty nature with my Jirachi, that did way too much damage for this thing to be any useful later on the game to deal with the Vanilluxe, and we saw how much work the Choice Scout Vanilluxe was able to do on the late game, and it doesn't even stop on turn 3. Not only I give so much damage on my Jirachi, I also give it to my Kyurem after having to eat this Shadow Ball, so this Krita did way too much work towards me that it should have had, and now obviously maybe in a hindsight I could have also Ice Beam here, because it would have 2-hit KO'd this Ferrothorn potentially. Which also could have been a nice that I was able to do that right from the get-go, but like, it was also how I dealt with the Credent first time around. I should have always gone into the Seismitoad, because as we see later on, once I figure out to do that to myself, I could have just done this simple thing, that once the Credent comes out, swap into your Seismitoad. I'll take the Body Slam just fine, I have leftovers, so I can knock off with Citrus Berry, so no, it won't be able to pop it off. And then maybe the crit doesn't even happen, so we are able to take more hits. And then I can choose to go for the Earthquake like I did, scout the damage, and then click a Scald. And maybe if it happens to live on one more turn, consider putting the Stealth Rocks up. Because if I put up Stealth Rocks, that would have weakened the Vanilluxe a lot more as well. And maybe now the Rhyperior, well, definitely the Rhyperior would have not lived the Crash Knot either. So on this turn with the Seismitoad versus the Credent, once I knocked off the Citrus Berry, I should have considered just clicking the Stealth Rocks, knowing that the Vanilluxe very well might be Choice Scarf, so like, I should have probably clicked Stealth Rocks here. So there was definitely misplaying early on the game that definitely made it harder for myself. But even if these did happen still, even if I made all those bad plays, I still could have won this game. If that Rhyperior would have died to the Crash Knot. And now we're gonna be going through these scenarios. Bear in mind there's gonna be a little bit of recreation progress to it, so all of my mons obviously are gonna be at full health, so I have to kind of play in a way that Togekiss does end up dying to this Vanilluxe after it killed the Rhyperior. This is the time that we are gonna be seeing that he uses the Vanilluxe to revenge kill this thing, and then afterwards that he will stay in to prioritize the damage on my Zeraora. And thankfully, as long as I don't get critted or frozen that time on when he clicks the first time Blizzard, I should be 100% free from this, if he stays in like that. Because then you saw that the Vanilluxe will die, the Mew have to come in, I get to Plasma Fist it first for free, get any kind of damage, and then he has to choose, does he go for a Nasty Plot or attack me. At that point he was probably better point of one just attacking me, and at this point of one, I can freely just U-turn with my Talonflame, which was still like a 70% of health, so he may have been able to live, or did definitely live a neutral hit from it regardless, but I would have been able to utilize U-turn, sack my Kyurem, which was still at 35%, so the Rock Slide damage did end up, the Rock Slide damage that I got with my Kyurem would have never happened in the actual game, but it was always in a range of my Brave Bird or U-turn regardless. So in a recreation progress, yeah, I did get a chance to Rock Slide the Mew, but in big scheme of things that didn't really matter too much. I just had to attack once more on it regardless. So that's the first case scenario if he utilized the Vanilluxe to revenge kill me and stayed in with the Zeraora first time around. This time around we get to see if he does go into the Mew first. And at this point of on, I have to kind of, as I recreating this, kind of allow it to kill my Togekiss for free. Or make it so that I don't only get to go for one Dashing Gleam. Because if he would have killed me, he would have been a neutral attack, which would have meant that I can easily go into Talonflame, go for a Brave Bird into a U-turn, see what he does, because I should be able to live one hit from it. And if he happens to Nasty Plot and my Togekiss gets to attack it like it did at this point of on, I'm pretty much in a position that Talonflame can come in, click the U-turn, I sack the Kyurem, and I get it in the range that Talonflame always finishes it off with Brave Bird, and then he would only have the Vanilluxe in the back, and it would be down from there. And at this point, if I go into Zeraora like this, I can actually preserve a differential, so I didn't even have to even use Talonflame to revenge kill the Mew. I can actually go into Zeraora, knock this thing off, again like every single position when the Blizzard comes from the Choice Scout variant of Vanilluxe, I have to worry about a crit or a freeze, but I still end up beating it. So that's one of the examples. And the last example that I have here is where he uses Vanillux to revenge kill my Togekiss, but then preserves the choice scarf on it for the late game and utilizes Mew instead. So we are gonna be seeing that, how that would have played out. So here I'm just gonna go through basically all the potential scenarios that I can think of that this could have been played out by my opponent, and how I would have been forced to react on it. Here I would have always clicked knockoff in front of the Vanillux. The Mew did end up being Holberry as my opponent mentioned, which is definitely means that I do a lot less on the switching, but this means that I can now just let the Kyurem go down. Here you're gonna be seeing me swapping back and forth because the Kyurem should always die to the Mew first, so I should always allow the Mew to be as healthy as it was from all that. And now we finally get to the point that the Kyurem does die, and then I would go into Talonflame. I get to Brave Bird it, I was at 70% of health, and the Psychic did neutrally at 45%, so I would have always lived that hit, barring again a crit, which always comes into by playing Pokemon. So this is not like 100% chance of me always winning. There's always a RNG that can play into my opponent's favor, but as long as those don't happen, at this point of on, if he preserved the Vanillux as a late game winning condition, I would have been able to preserve a win still. But this time around, in this kind of scenario, it would have been a 1-0 win. Instead of the priority way, it would have been a 2-0 win, and on the first example, it would have also been a 1-0 win. So that's kind of how this game, barring the roll on the Rhyperior, should have played out if the Rhyperior did die. So there's a lot of different things I can take away. So those are kind of like the different ways that this game could have come together. There's obviously my misplays early on that I talked about around the gradient that are definitely on me. I cannot take this frustration anywhere else than towards myself, that I should have played it better. On these other scenarios, I can be frustrated that I didn't get the roll versus the Rhyperior, because in all fairness, if I click Dazzling Gleam in front of the Rhyperior and the Rhyperior just chose to go for the Rock Police and kill me, I did not have anything that outpaces it and kills it. So in that scenario, now looking back on it, I should have never ever actually clicked Dazzling Gleam, because if it was at +2, it killed everything that I had left except the Zeraora. But the Zeraora would have had to go for the Grass Knot that popped the weakness policy, so at that point of on, like, I didn't have any other option. I feel like now looking back on it, I was always forced to click Grass Knot. I didn't feel like that immediately after it. At first, when I live recreated, I was kicking myself, why didn't I Dazzling Gleam first? But in a hindsight, Grass Knot actually was the proper play. So that's all I need to really say about this. Hopefully this was insightful for those that were interested. Hopefully some of you did stay tuned for that, to see all this when I'm rambling, I guess, and kind of been kicking myself to the foot and like, how did I misplay this and why didn't I get the Grass Knot roll? But next week we are gonna be going up against Goldoa Dragon and bouncing back and hopefully get ourselves back on the winning streak. And we're gonna be having 2 free agents as well. We're gonna be having some newcomers on the team, which I'm gonna be talking at the very start of the next battle video. So stay tuned for that. Thank you for watching. I'm gonna be see you guys later.